decrease. It does reflect a slight decrease from
Right.
last year's.
Yep. Okay, we don't have any options on that. Planning and development. We have adjusted our rates. Do we need some changes to them?
No, well, unfortunately, this is a really difficult one to gauge. We do talk to Patty to see what kind of communication she's had from the development community. People say, yes, we're gonna come ahead with the development, and then for other reasons outside of flood control, they don't go ahead. We've had some that have been on the books for 24, 25 years, and even if they came ahead today, it wouldn't be reflected in your planning fees because they've already paid their fees years and years ago. Even an application that was filed last year, proceeds this year, it's not going to be reflected in these because they've already paid. So again, we usually overestimate, and this year we said let's try to be more realistic with our numbers. This is what we feel that we can achieve this year. Committee of Adjustment, there's usually quite a few applications. However, as you know, Council at the last meeting passed a resolution, passed a bylaw that allows building in the front yards if you're adjacent to a water course. They also allow for larger accessory buildings. Those are two applications that we get quite frequently. I imagine when you change your official plan and allow the farm severances, that will reduce our official plan amendments and zone amendments, because I would think probably 80%, if not more, of our application fees are for those purposes, as you see repeatedly with those applications. So that affects our revenues. However, our costs, whether it's for planning or for building, stay fairly static. Certainly. Well, you have a building inspector. He needs to be there. He needs to look over the plan. What we do then, if there isn't the building, is we reduce the other inspector's time. However, we're also trying to close off old permits, which takes time. We've also, this year, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 permits in now, and recently we had a meeting with a gentleman who is building a 8,000 square foot house.
Yeah. 8,000?
8,000.
Who's getting that one? Which area?
Peach Pines, actually. From my understanding.
Yeah.
So again, the permit fee for that will be significant. However, there's also significant.
You putting in a garage on?
But again, and there are certain things. I think we've tried to outline in our reports over the years. There are certain liabilities on municipality that we have to ensure are addressed. So our inspectors are being trained all the time. They're taking courses. The new codes are coming in. The new accessibility standards are coming in. There's more training this year. There's more liability on the municipality. So those fees and costs are fixed. Doesn't matter if you have 1 permit or 1,000 permits. So that's where there isn't necessarily the revenue to exactly offset. As you know, last year we were really fortunate with our building permits. We had a bit of a surplus. That surplus does not go into your operating. It goes into a reserve for years when the building permit revenues don't match the expenses. So that will be there in the future. However, you don't really see the impact of the extra billings.
So we're okay with the planning budget? There's nothing that we can adjust up in there, Dave?
Yeah, this is where is an example for me, which I know is a challenge. It's the revenues have increased by 5,000, but the expenses have increased by 13,778. So I see that part of that is admin allocation and other miscellaneous things too. But to me, this is an example right here where you can bring it back so it's more reflective of each other. If you have more revenues, then you make the expenses reflect how much you spend on the same department as well.
I think the major expense on the planning is the administration allocation, and if your general administration is going up with your overheads and stuff, that percentage allocation of course is going to increase a bit. So the only item there is the contracted services, and it's only $200 more than last year's budget. I think with the revenues, you may have been comparing the year to date to the budget rather than budget to budget, because there's almost $10,000 drop in revenues there for budget purposes.
There's some, I see that too, but that's reflective of what the year has done the previous year, right? So we're just trying to find some money, ready to find $90,000, and to me, this is reflective of what's happening. I mean, we have to also talk about what we're doing to prepare if we get a lot of reassessments happening. I know that you put money away for people that are going to appeal those, but this is a magazine article that I told you about. It's in the claims. It says, "Inside the Great Real Estate Crash of 2013, who will get hit hardest and what it will mean for your fragile economy." So, I mean, we have to have a plan in place for these kind of things too. So, yes, we just have to take things up, right?
Yep, and we have increased our radar budget for the tax side because of the reassessment rate. When we do that, typically, with the reassessment rate.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't advise that there be any adjustments made to this
No.
planning portion, section?
Not, unless Carol can speak to what's in the contracted services, that's the only expense that I see that.
The contracted services, all that is the committee of adjustment wages, because they're paid $100 per person per meeting, and that includes their expenses to go out to the meetings and to the sites, and actually view them. And then there is time allocated, that's part of Glenn Bell's time is allocated there for anything he does to planning, whether it's zoning, if he goes into site meetings for zonings and that, so his time is allocated there as well. But really, it's only gone up $200 since over last year's. I think the $100 that's in there doesn't reflect the last pay for the committee of adjustment. It almost is always pretty much bang on, because like I said, there's only the two issues that are in there, so it's easy to budget for.
Okay. Next section is the business protection of persons and property. Did I do what? On this page. Building. Building and special.
Going to building now.
Okay.
If you'd like, as you see in the 2012 revenue, we have a super year for permits. We don't have really a handle as to whether that will be the same this year. We did have a great $40,000 permit for the one apartment building in Grand Bend, which certainly helped. As I said, we've got 4 or 5 houses so far this year, and this is January, so we're doing really well. And we don't tend to have too many fluctuations. We're fairly static. But again, as I explained, the new code's coming in, accessibility standards, so there is some money in there for training. We have reduced the amount of our contracted services. Like we haven't increased that this year. We've kept it the same, and I think it's 2 days a week that we have an inspector in. And then if for some reason it's not busy, we do just say, don't come in for a bit. But he does fill in when Randy's away on courses or something like that as well. If there's any questions?
Okay. Questions on that? Protection of persons and property.
Yes, in this area, with regard to the expenses, I see that we're actually dropping it back, $14,000 for the services that we're expecting for people, protection of people and property. And because of the sensitivity of the Grand Bend area, et cetera, I'm not sure why we've dropped back the totals so much when there was a discussion about whether we should be increasing them.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The big reduction primarily is in the admin allocation, so it's not necessarily a reduction in services. We still have the $5,000 in there for the short-term rental. We do have the enhanced beach patrols. We've got the the Main Street parking as well in there, and both of those, of course, are for Grand Bend. It's up to council. We will provide whatever level of bylaw enforcement that you wish. Currently, and I'm certain that we'll have an opportunity with the short-term rental accommodation committee to go over some of the issues that were raised. There are some things that do need to be shared with some of the people, some of the challenges that we face, and some of the changes that we've made over the years that have certainly made improvements. But currently, like I said, the change seems to be in the admin allocation primarily.
Councilor Underwood.
Yeah, I was on the short-term rental committee with the chair here, but quite honestly, they did a wonderful job last year. They didn't use all the monies that we put in extra, so we decided to keep it the same. this year, just